Right, at long last, another ship. I thought I had the Bismarck. Um, I'm sure I have, but I found the Scharnhorst, which is one of my absolute favourite ships, bizarrely, and I think is a really attractive, very aesthetically pleasing ship. I'm probably going to repeat that several times over. Anyway, it's this one's Revell, and I'm going to try and paint it up a bit like kind of box art, so I want it to look a bit sort of sloppy and weather. Actually, what I've always got in mind when I do a ship is the Airfix box art for the Ark Royal, which is unbeatable to the point where I can't get it like that. But anyway. Ooh-wee, what have we got here? Revell Scharnhorst, level 4 out of 5. 1 to 570 scale, 122 parts, and 40.6 centimetres in length. God, hey, taking on something here. There's the parts. Let's get it open and have a look. Well, that's what 122 parts looks like. A lot of small stuff. Look at them. Yeah, the sort of what can you call it? Symmetry of ships means there's a lot of sort of repetition and to balance the ship out. So there's there's going to be a lot of multiplication, he said clearly, and well, yeah, this looks like it could be a bit of a labour of love. So, kind of moving on, getting a bit, ambitious compared with the little tanks and the little airplanes. There we go. Yeah, let's clean it up and give it a base coat.
You can also
There's Richard Dolan and lovely wife. So I'm starting the Scharnhorst, and here's the instructions with a fascinating anomaly. You can see there, number 1, paint the little guns. Fair enough. Paint the spotlight. Fair enough. Number 2, as usual, Airfix always did this, add the propellers and rudders to the already glued together hull. Now, we're all intelligent, we can work this out for ourselves, but the big question is, am I less intelligent than I thought I was, and have I missed something? And lo and behold, no. How thoroughly entertaining. Scharnhorst hull, just the basics. I haven't done the underside because I tend to knock all that stuff off while I'm making the rest. Mind you, if I then roll it over to put all the rudders and propellers on, stand a chance of knocking everything on the top off, but I'd prefer it this way. And I have done a fairly pale deck and fairly thin. I want it streaky and pale. The interesting thing is, if you're this far away from a ship that size, that it looks that small, colours start to pale down and fade. So I'm trying to get that level of subtlety into the colours. I think on the Nelson I did it just a little bit darker than I'd have liked, so just going for paler. It looks alright from here. When you build it up, sometimes things don't look as good as you thought, but so far, with simple 3 parts glued together, it's looking great. Just a little thing that's ungood. Look at the size of that mould remnant. And this is on the inside of the kind of main superstructure. Here's the other one, just sitting loosely on. So having something that big projecting out, which I think that's the way around it goes, that's going to interfere completely with it. Probably won't be able to do it one-handed, but it's going to interfere with the as you can see there, This can interfere with the fit of the deck above. So there are a couple of those going to have to get cleaned off, unless they're there for location purposes. So I'll double check. I'm starting to put the guns on. As usual, I'm not going to be playing with it, so I'm just going to glue them on. I'm not going to have them moving, but you do get gigantic things which you're supposed to put underneath the deck so that the locating pins go into them and you can drop a bit of glue in, a bit like the way you do a propeller. Look at the paint on my thumbnail. So a bit like the way you do a propeller on a little model aircraft. I'm not gluing the big guns on yet because the painting instructions seem to say that everything's just grey in this zone, and sometimes guns have slightly different colour along the barrel. So I'm just going to double check that, because if that's the case I can flip them over, pop the guns out, they come on a little kind of tree of 3, a brace of 3, and then I can paint them. So I'll just pop these smaller guns and cranes on, and then I'll double check the colour of the barrels. Made sense to me. I don't know. Just while some parts of the hull are sort of drying, settling, don't want to push them around, I've done the next bit of deck, and I do need to clean off a couple of those little leftovers from the mould. A couple of the others can get by alright. And then upper sections to go on top of that one. Bit by bit it's falling together, not necessarily in the right order for a start, but I've got to make sure I don't block off. I'm not going to put any of those on because I don't want to block off other areas where I've got to get in to paint that lifeboat and that hole there, and on the other side where other lifeboats go in. So I mustn't block them off basically. So it's coming along steadily, but I've got to backtrack now and do a bit of painting, I think. As usual, there's been a rapid development. A lot of things have been glued on now, and a lot of things are coming along rather nicely. I have done a bit of highlighting, perhaps a little heavy on that gun, which has paled it up even more. It's starting to look a little bit too pale. I have to try and get some kind of colour in there somewhere. And for some reason I took all the little boats off. There they are, pootling around. Right, bits and bits and bits are going on. At this point I'm going to have to glue the crane on, or the cranes plural. Interesting. And then I've got to put lots of tiny little guns and spotlights in there, and a couple of spotlights elsewhere, and paint the funnel black. It's about the nearest thing to colour we've got on there. I'm starting to wish I'd done a slightly darker deck, because at least it would give a bit more of a contrasting tone. Well, there we go. As for how's the model going, it's going good. Everything's fitting together, no real problems, so that is nice. Yeah, off we go. And all of a sudden it was done. Last bit's on, little flag at the back, little flag. Seems like the old German naval flag, but it's got a white spot with nothing in it. I thought there was one of those black things, like a spider, that we can't mention anymore. But anyway, you don't get one of them. I'm not going to worry about that. So here it is done. It was alright. It was I can't say it's the best model in the world, but it was good. It was enjoyable, and on the whole it came together alright. A few bits and pieces needed sorting out. The plastic and the sprue and the finish of the parts look like the mould needs a bit of attention these days. Just all of it was a bit rounded and soft detail, but apart from that, there we go, done. Has it come out the way I wanted? Not quite what I had in mind, actually. I'm glad I worked on the portholes. I'm glad I got a bit of sort of smudge coming out of them, that kind of thing. I haven't gone for the level of rust that you see on the Airfix Arc Royal thing. We'll save that up for when I do the Airfix Arc Royal, I think. But there it is done. It was alright, I enjoyed it. I will do another ship another day. Bismarck or Arc Royal probably, by the sound of things. What else have we got? What have we got to consider? I mean, this is a good ship. This ship got up to an awful lot. It actually, with its sister ship, I think, kind of dashed up the English Channel during the war, which is an incredibly daring thing to do. So it seems as if it packed a punch. It's, you know, did its job well and got an awful lot of hits and accolades under its belt. I do think it's a good looking ship. That and the Grafspee are really nice looking ones. And then finally outside, try and get a bit of light on it. The interesting thing is that if you notice in the background there's snow, and this was done about a year ago, so it goes to show, doesn't it? We got a little bit of snow again. Doesn't look much like the sea, a port or a dock, but really I'm just aiming to get some light on it. That's the main thing. And one thing worth throwing in at this point, or actually two things. First of all, this is a rather nice scale. What was a small Airfix ship has come out at a good, sturdy looking size. The other thing to mention is I haven't done the red hull and the black band. That's because, like the Nelson that I did earlier, I want to sink these ships into a kind of resin sea base. I'm a little bit worried that those colours will show through because proportionately we're not looking very far, are we, into the resin, so it could all show through and look a bit fake, is one way of putting it. So that's why I haven't done that. Anyway, enjoyed this. It's nice to do a ship again, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and there will be more soon. I'm just tidying up a couple of films, so hopefully all being well, see you soon. Thanks for watching.